For almost 40 years, controller companies have been releasing third-party gamepads that are better and more expensive than the stock plastic that comes with your console. When companies like Microsoft observe their player base spending their hard-earned shekels on premium, pro, and custom controllers, they want to shove their fingers in the honeypot too. Phil Spencer and Xbox gaming division launched the Elite controller line in October of 2015, then followed up with the Series 2 in November of 19. Jim Ryan and PlayStation have been letting companies like Madcatz, Logitech, Razer, AIM, scuf, beaver, and Hex, just to touch the tip of the controller market, to handle high-performance controllers for those who want, need, and are willing to pay for the experience. Today, August 23rd, is controller history, so powder your wigs, polish your muskets, and allow me, your controller captain, to explain everything there is to know about Sony's upcoming first-party custom controller, the DualSense Edge.
This is your controller captain. We've reached 6,900 feet. Go ahead and start flicking the sticks and mollywopping the back paddles.
You don't like back paddles? How about those rear buttons? We've tested almost 100 custom and premium controllers, and we're only at the beginning. You need a thumbstick guide or tutorial on how to overclock your controller? Check out the controller playlist. Bing bong.
Controller captain out.
Today is a historical day because Sony's PlayStation department officially announced that they are releasing their first Pro controller directly from them, so a first-party controller. What are the benefits of going with a first-party controller like the Microsoft Elite versus getting a third-party controller from something like AIM, scuf, beaver, etc.? In my opinion, the only practical advantage to getting a first-party controller from Nintendo or PlayStation or Microsoft is the fact that the hardware communicates with the software. Meaning, for example, the Microsoft Elite, if you want to do any of the button bindings or customize anything on the controller, it's right there in your settings. As with third-party controllers, you generally have to rebind your buttons on the fly directly from the controller, or maybe you have some kind of a third-party app you have to install. Other than that, first-party companies don't offer better warranties than these third-party companies. They're not cheaper, they're not better, they don't offer new features. The only difference is they're first-party, so they're coming directly from Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, so the maker of the console that you're playing on, rather than a third-party company. But believe you me, after testing dozens of these controllers, there's not that big of a difference between first and third-party controllers. Sharing my screen, I have a couple of articles pulled up that will be sourced or cited in the description below, as I do anytime I cover any news in the gaming community or industry. This came out today. This is an official post on the PlayStation blog, and I did my research. This isn't a prank or a hack or April Fools or anything like that. And of course, shortly following this news, journalistic platforms such as IGN, The Verge, Kotaku started pumping out their articles, basically taking pictures and quotes verbatim from the actual post and putting it in their articles. Nothing wrong with that. That's just how the gaming news works. Cite your sources correctly, sir. So I'd like to structure this video first by looking at the potential price and release date, then looking at the official pictures that Sony has provided, and giving my thoughts about the features that are offered on this controller. So there is zero release date, not even a vague one like a season or a fiscal quarter, but this controller is technically ahead of the Elite Series 3 when it comes to the development timeline of it actually being released, because the DualSense Edge is officially announced from Sony that they are working on it and are going to be releasing it, as where Microsoft hasn't even acknowledged or tipped their hat that they're working on the Elite Series 3. If you are an Xbox player, I have a video linked in the description below that I uploaded about a week ago, going very in depth with everything we know thus far about the Elite Series 3. My prediction for the release of the DualSense Edge is going to be holiday season of next year, 2023. This product was just announced, and I do believe that is when Microsoft is going to release their Elite Series 3, and it is likely that Team Blue and Green will duke it out around the holiday season when it comes to their custom accessories, such as their Pro controllers and also their headsets. Keep in mind, Sony now has a new line of headsets, not the Pulse 3D, but some higher end models. As for recommended retail or the asking price, I'm going with the exact same prediction as the Elite Series 3, between $180 and $200 US. What are you basing that on? Well, historical asking price of the Elite Series 1 and 2, and also current asking price of the DualSense controller, which is going to be $70 for the Midnight Black, as well as some of their other custom controllers such as Minstrel Red and I Don't Give a Fuck Blue. These are going for $70. For the longest time, the standard white DualSense was going for $65, but it went right back up to $70, which is what it launched at. With the features and included accessories of the DualSense Edge, I'm predicting $180 to $200, which brings us right into the features of this first-party Pro controller. Now, I've highlighted the actual key features of this controller in between all the fluff and buzzwords of the article, so you are going to have full software control and customization over this controller. No surprise there, it's probably going to be baked directly into the PlayStation 5, just like the Microsoft Elite controller on the Xbox. And from there, you are going to be able to rebind your inputs, adjust the sensitivity and dead zones of both sticks, the travel distance and dead zone of both triggers, and set up your profiles. Speaking of profiles, you are going to be able to swap through multiple onboard profiles on the fly. It just says multiple, doesn't specify how many, so I'm going to assume 2 or 3. You do also have a dedicated function button, which allows you to quick swap between your profiles. Now, I do not see that pictured here. I see the microphone mute button. I see the PlayStation button. I see these two niblets down here, which I'm assuming are two extra action buttons. And then, of course, I see the share and pause or option button and the speaker grill over here. I don't see an additional button anywhere, but you're going to have a function button, which is going to allow you to swap through your profiles. Swappable thumbsticks. No surprise there. It's a standard feature on most premium or pro controllers. And it says it will come with 3 types. It doesn't specify the exact quantity, but I'm assuming it is 2 of each. The standards are going to be your normal short sticks that you're used to with a stock controller. Then you're going to have a high and low dome. And at first when I read this, I was like, oh cool, PlayStation's going back to dome sticks like they had on the PS2 and 3. But if you look at these pictures or images, these are the same thumbsticks that have been used on the PS4 and 5. They're called hybrid thumbsticks because they're both concaved and domed. They're slightly domed in the center, but then have this little ring around the outside, technically making them concaved. So they're both making them hybrid thumbsticks. So it's unclear if it is going to be the hybrid thumbsticks that is in this picture or what's written in the Sony blog that they are domed thumbsticks. Now this is where things get extremely interesting. You do have 2 swappable sets of back buttons, half domed and lever. The only controller I can think of off memory that I've tested recently that had 2 changeable rear buttons would be the Victrix Gambit. It had a 2 and a 4 rear button option. But this is legitimately changing the shape from a half dome, basically a little niblet or bump on the back, to a lever or a more traditional scuf paddle. Now it's not written down in the blog anywhere, but as you can see from the picture, there is also 3-way trigger stops, which is fantastic because you want the DualSense controller to retain the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers so you still have full functional play of first-party Sony interactive entertainment games that make full use of those features. But if you're playing something like a competitive first-person shooter, you can turn on these trigger locks. Now, what I'm concerned about, and I'm sure Sony has done the R&D and already figured this out, is that the adaptive trigger motors need to be completely deactivated when these trigger locks are on, or else it will literally break inside the controller. Because if you have the trigger stops or trigger locks, whatever you want to call them, all that is a little metal bar or peg that comes out in the rear shell and blocks the trigger from being squeezed all the way. And the adaptive triggers have an actual motor that gets stiffer or lighter depending on what's going on screen. So if you put on those trigger stops and those motors are still fighting or working against them, it'll just break the controller. So I'm sure Sony is making it to where these controllers will deactivate the motors for the adaptive triggers whenever the trigger locks are turned on. That's the way it's got to be. Also, I found it a little awkward that they have pictures of these trigger stops, but they don't actually mention the feature or type it out because that is a pretty major selling feature. And this right here is bittersweet. Replaceable thumbstick modules. So that's great for one, because we're all inevitably going to get stick drift, whether it happens 4 months or 4 years after owning this controller. It's almost an inevitability that potentiometer sensor and carbon strike plate based thumbstick modules that are bulk sourced from a company called Alps are going to get stick drift over time. It's great that you can hot swap these modules, so if you do get stick drift, you don't need to buy a completely new controller, but this isn't an ideal fix. It would be great if Sony were to include magnetic Hall effect sensors in the thumbsticks, because that would make it virtually impossible for those thumbsticks to develop stick drift. But instead, it seems like Sony's giving you a partial fix that they can also monetize you on the back end with by getting you to buy replacement thumbstick modules when you inevitably get stick drift. This paragraph is letting you know that you still have the stock functionality of a DualSense controller, such as the haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, built-in microphone, and 6-axis motion sensing. Well, yeah, that would suck if you bought a premium or pro controller and it's actually losing features from a stock controller. That would be not good. The Edge Pro controller is also going to come with a braided USB-C cable. When you buy a DualSense controller, it does not come with a USB-C cable, period. They're expecting you're going to use the stalker that came with your console. But this Pro controller is going to come with not only a cable, but what seems like a darn good one, braided, that actually uses a custom connector that's built into the housing, as you can see right here, so it is much less likely to slip out during a crucial moment. So if you're using this controller for competitive play, you're playing wired, of course, and you're overclocked, of course, for that less than 1 millisecond of input lag or delay. And if your dog or drunk friend or spouse trips on that cord, it ain't gonna pull it out because it's got this little pin that snaps it into place. That's kind of cool. Also, the texturing here looks really good. It doesn't look like the tiny face buttons that are all over the back of a stock DualSense controller. It looks like a different stippling or texturing that I think will be very grippy. Also, the controller is going to have an included carrying case, which does also charge the controller, much like the Elite Series 2. Now, cosmetically, I think this controller looks gorgeous. It's still going with that white and black design. However, instead of that cheap parts bin special chin or lip, which is the cheapest black plastic I have ever seen, this looks like it is gloss or piano black, which of course will get fingerprints and micro scratches, but it does look good. And the D-pad and face or action buttons being blacked out looks great, but what really stimulates my corneas and is the most attractive feature in my opinion is that touchpad with those little face buttons on there. Also, there's a little white LED indicator light, so when you are in remapping mode, binding those rear buttons, that will most likely be flashing. It's just a good looking controller. Classy, understated. I don't think they're going to offer any other colors such as black or gray. It'd be awesome if they did. I'm sure that companies like Extreme Rate will start offering faceplates and custom accessories that you can buy on Amazon if you want to customize your own Edge controller. Now, me personally, I would have named it the Tomahawk Knuckle Duster 3000 or something like that, but whatever. The Edge is fine. Now, some of the stuff that wasn't mentioned during this post in the blog, and I kind of wish would first of all be battery life. Is it increased over a standard DualSense? Because the DualSense controller has atrocious battery life, so it'd be nice if a 160 plus Pro controller had better battery life. Also, since the PCB or printed circuit board is most likely going to be based on the stock DualSense controller, I'm sure this controller is still going to be non-polling rate locked, so you will still be able to follow my overclocking guide and get this to under 1 millisecond of input delay by overclocking it. I don't believe the DualSense Edge is going to negatively or positively affect sales of the Microsoft Elite Series 3, at least on the console side of the house. However, PC gamers plug their controller to the front of the tower or Bluetooth it or use a dongle or whatever. They have full choice of whatever controller they want, regardless of platform, because there's driver support for anything. They're most likely going to go for the Edge controller because it's not going to be frame rate locked. Hey there, brother. I'm editing the video. You said frame rate locked, but you meant polling rate locked. This ain't a monitor or TV. It's a controller. And ergonomically, the DualSense is damn near tied with an Xbox controller, which is saying a lot because the DualShock 4 from the PS4, not ergonomically comfortable for most North American hands, I would say. And you go back further in generation to the PS3, 2, 1, it gets smaller and more petite and harder to wrap your haunches around. Anyway, the DualSense is a freakishly comfortable ergonomic controller, and it doesn't look like these buttons or rear paddles are going to interfere with that. The fact that you do have swappable thumbsticks is great. The 3-way trigger locks, as long as it doesn't break your adaptive trigger motors, is cool. I think it cosmetically looks good. I'm really excited to test this controller. I will be getting my hands on one as soon as humanly possible. I'd like to get one right here, right now. They're not even off the showroom floor yet. Drop in the comment section below your opinion of the DualSense Edge, the Microsoft Elite Series 3, or any upcoming Pro controller that you're excited about that you would like me to talk about or feature on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos out at TikTok. To get in touch with myself and the stallions and stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.